start with Sanjiv Bajaj as president of CII to give us a macro sense of how India Inc. is seeing the growth prospects of the India economy being hampered as a result of all the geopolitical tension we're seeing on account of the Russia-Ukraine war.
So Rahul, as you have clearly started off saying, that there is a level of uncertainty in the air. Now if you think about it, the last couple of quarters, India actually saw growth coming back. On the ground, consumer growth started growing. We've seen that the banks have cleaned up their books over the last 2 years. They're sitting on significant amount of capital. They're ready to lend. So we've got those tailwinds going also. Yes, because of the war and because of the recovery from the pandemic prior to that, we saw uncertainty in supply chains. We are seeing higher levels of inflation. The government, led by the Prime Minister, has only 2 days ago tried to address that by significant cut in fuel prices, which was one of CII's requests as well, and a number of other input duties, due to which we should start seeing prices coming down. This should help inflation, and really that's what we need, because from a middle class consumer's point of view, you ease his pocket on food and fuel prices, and we are hoping for a good monsoon as is forecast right now. The consumption cycles should start again. The other good thing is, if you see in the last 3 or 4 years, private sector has not made significant capex. We are just starting to see that come back also. So you're going to see capex coming in, you're hopefully going to see that consumption with inflation. So inflation needs to be tamed. RBI has also started working on that. I think it's a matter of time before growth starts coming back.
One of the factors holding back the growth engine kicking into full gear, Amitabh Chaudhry, was the absence of private investment. Are you seeing an increase in adequate capital offtake to see private sector want to invest once again in the India story? Or do you think this war just wants to make industrialists hedge for a while and sit on the fence?
Well, as Sanjiv said, the things were coming back for sure, and I think if you look at the credit growth rate in April and May, for the first time after a long time we have seen double-digit credit growth. But most of it is still coming from the retail side. I think the private capex has started picking up on the SME side. The commodity cycle has done quite well, so a lot of investment happening there. But are all the private players talking about large capex? Not as yet. We're still waiting for it to pick up. I think the Russian-Ukraine war and whatever you're seeing around us, the geopolitical tensions and supply chain shocks and inflation, is slowing it down a little bit, or at least pushing the conversations a little bit beyond what we would like to see. But given the India story, given what is happening around us and what especially is happening in India, I think it's just a matter of time before we start seeping it in and all coming back.
But it's been a matter of time for quite a while.
I know, but we never predicted that, Russia never predicted the war will last that long.
Is there, Amitabh Kant, a sense of exasperation at some level in government that you reduced corporate taxation thinking that this would spur investment and growth? Then the pandemic happened and that offtake never really took place. Then as soon as capacity utilization reached the mid-70s, you thought, okay, here's an opportunity where again industry will start investing. Then you've got the Russia-Ukraine crisis, you've got inflation, you've got interest rates going up. So is there a sense of just pulling your hair and saying, when does the economy go into high gear?
So Rahul, go back to 91 reforms. Actually, it took us a while for growth to really kick off. The government has carried out a vast number of structural reforms across a whole range of areas. And recently, in the context of the Russia-Ukraine war and the inflation, slashed the excise duty on petrol and diesel. We've also rolled out the production-linked incentive schemes across 14 sectors. We're seeing huge interest there. Several areas like electric mobility or electronic mobile manufacturing, advanced chemistry cell, battery manufacturing, all these are cutting-edge areas of growth. We've seen a really huge response. I personally feel that it's not about just the next 4 to 5 months. The challenge for India is really to grow for the next 3 decades, year after year, at high rates. That's important. We've grown at high rates earlier for a short period, but we need to do this on a consistent basis. And all of us, including you, need to take a long-term perspective of this. The buzz in Davos is really exciting, and the good thing here is that everybody is looking at India. The buzz is good because there's a number of state governments who are represented here. It's good to see states coming and trying to attract investments. They're being very aggressive, and my view is that with all these reforms, the states grow, then India grows, and India grows on a consistent basis, and I think the mood is good.
The COVID-induced lockdowns in China created an opportunity to tap into the China plus one recalibration of the global supply chains. But if you read a lot of the international commentary, they're saying the biggest beneficiary of the growing trade tensions between the United States and China has actually been Vietnam, and to some extent, especially in textiles, Bangladesh, and the sense outside India that you said they're looking at India, but they're actually going out and investing more in Vietnam.
So let me first put this in a perspective. Bangladesh has invited investments in textiles. Vietnam has got some investment in some products of electronic manufacturing. But if you look at India and the vast domestic demand and the size and scale of India, there's no alternative to China but India over a long period of time. These are, smaller economies. They'll attract investment for some time, but if you want to do it on a sustained basis over a long period of time, there is no other country than India. And actually, in all these areas of PLI manufacturing, we've got some really good investments, both from international companies as well as from domestic. So I personally see that we just need to keep sustaining this over a long period of time, and I have no doubt in my mind that India will grow and grow on a sustained basis.
Adar Poonawalla, you were recently in the United States meeting with Anthony Fauci and traveling the world, meeting several top experts. One of the things holding back industry from investing is the fear that in some form and shape the pandemic could rear its dangerous head once again. What's your broad sense of how much of an inhibitor to growth the pandemic could potentially still be?
Well, I'll echo some of the points here in the sense that as soon as things stabilize, as soon as that confidence comes back, there's of course no competition to India today. I've talked to large groups and investors. We are definitely the preferred destination given our regulatory reforms and our environment and the market and all of that. Having said that, I think, as you said, because of the war partly and because of this fear of, another wave coming, yes, they have held back. But if you wait for perhaps a year, or maybe less than that, you've got all the measures the government is taking to contain inflation, and also, as you rightly said, in about 7 to 8 months, I see a complete change, or hope to see a complete change in the investment that will take.